evening, everyone. Come on up, Mary. I'm going to pray for you.
Good.
I figure you can
I could use it,
I
yeah.
figure you could use all the prayer you could get. So, let's
Yeah, because
we're going to use this.
yeah.
Let's get, these are all the things you have to find. The Lord be with you. Let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for not only the opportunity to love you, but to love each other. There are many places and many venues and many people through whom that kind of work can be done. And I give thanks that Mary has chosen a ministry that a lot of people would shy away from, and that's to go not only visit our people in jail, but to actually try to encounter them and to interact with them and to help them live lives of victory and transformation. So I give thanks for her and for the message that she's going to share with us today. Continue to bless her in all that she does. In Jesus' name. Amen. It's going. Unbelievable.
Magic of modern technology. Well, Father Bill had talked to me about coming and talking to you about not only what I do, but how did I start doing this? What exactly do I do? And why? How many times have things happened in your life and you're like, why me, Lord? I know that in the past couple of years I've asked that a lot. But how I started, I've been working since I was 18. When I graduated from college, high school, my father took me to Sears and gave me to this lady, and I started as a telemarketer for the Sears catalog. So I've been working since I was 18. I retired in 2006 from the city of Pasadena. I had worked in welfare to work since 1995, helping people less fortunate improve their lives through employment. I've had over 55 different jobs in my lifetime. I've been everything from a bank auditor and worked in retail to I was a stockbroker for 8 years. So I met Jim Hamlin. We moved to Banning in 2007, got married, and after the excitement of getting married and moving in and doing all that, I look around and go, I'm bored. I got nothing to do. I didn't play golf, even though I have all this stuff. I'm not a tennis player. I'm not into all of that. So I went to downtown Banning looking for either a temp agency or an employment center or something, and there was nothing. There was nothing there. And then somebody introduced me to Debbie Franklin, who I think a lot of you know was on the city council. And I talked to her about this. And she put me in touch with Bill Mannis, who at the time was the Economic Development Director. Now, I've been in Toastmasters since 1989, so I'm kind of used to doing this. So I talked to Bill and I said, well, you know, if I'm having trouble finding a job, what about all the other people in the area? And so we decided that I could do some workshops at the community center. Well, about that time, Michael moved to Banning. And he and I have known each other since about 2003 through Toastmasters. We both lived in Diamond Bar. So, as Michael will tell you, his favorite words too are yes, dear. In that order, yes, dear. So I said, hey, let's do some workshops. He goes, okay. So we went to the community center and we did a few workshops, and then we, didn't do them. Well, people started asking, coming to the community center and saying, where are the employment people? So we made the decision. We said, we need to do this on a weekly basis. So we said, we're going to start the job club. So we started, and I think it was about 2014, we said, okay, let's do this. On the first day that we opened the job club, a gentleman came in named Ken Baylor. Ken Baylor works at the jail, and he's employed by the Economic Development Agency. And his job is to give workshops to the inmates on finding a job. And he has a little workbook called New Beginner. He said, how would you guys like to come and do this in the jail? We went, okay, sounds good. So we got our temporary clearance, we went in, we watched what he did, and we thought, oh yeah, we can do this. So I said, well, now you need a level 1 clearance. The application packet was like this thick. They wanted to know every single job that I'd had since I was 18, which that's how I found out I'd had 55-something jobs. Some of them were part-time while I was working full-time. They also wanted to know all about, where my ex-husbands are, who they are and where they are. I said, well, I know where they kind of are, but I don't know their exact address. But credit check, fingerprint, the whole thing. And so finally, I got my level 1 clearance badge. This is my ticket in and out of the jail. So what exactly do we do? Well, I've showed you the workbook. This is how it goes. Do you all know where the jail is? And this is the county jail. It is not a prison, it is the county jail. If you go east on the 10 and you get to Hargrave, and you get off at Hargrave and you make a right turn and go to the very end, you will run into it. There's a guard shack there, it's called P1, it stands for Perimeter 1. So you go to P1 and you show your badge and you walk up and there's a gate. And you've got to remember, once you step foot on the jail property, you are on camera. So you go to the first gate and you patiently wait to see if they'll unlock it. And there is a little button you can push. You unlock that gate, you bear to the right, you go through another gate that you have to wait for them to open. Then you go to a building, and it's called Site B. It stands for Sheriff Inmate Training and Education Bureau. And you have to knock on the door because it's locked. They let you in. And so Ken is there, and you get the list of people who have signed up. They tell you which housing unit your people have signed up in. Now, you got to remember that is the largest jail in Riverside County. It has the capacity of 1,600 inmates. There are 18 housing units there. So you get a list of who signed up. You get your books. You get your pencils. The inmates are allowed to have the golf pencils, little golf pencil with a little eraser on it, and a sign-in sheet. And so then you go back out of the building, back to the gate, wait for it to open, cross the driveway. Then you have to go through 2 gates. And they're right close together, and you hope that they coordinate unlocking both of them and you don't get stuck in the middle, because sometimes they think you can go faster than you can, and by the time you've shut the first gate, they've already locked the second gate, so you have to stand and wait for them to open the next gate. So then you're on what they call the highway. The highway is a driveway that's 1/4 mile long, and all the housing units are on the left. It goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, and then 15, 16, 17, and 18 and 19. 18 and 19 are where the RSAT guys are, and that stands for Residential Substance Abuse Treatment. That is a special program for inmates who have drug and alcohol issues and have committed crimes. And they're the ones that go to the school, and I'll talk about that later. So you go through 2 gates, you go in the housing unit, and you go to the office where the deputies are, and you tell them who you are. Hopefully the program room is available, and the program rooms are just that. It's just a room. It has usually a folding table and some plastic chairs, sometimes a book cart. Sometimes they store stuff in there, like boxes of toilet paper or clothes. And then they go and they call the inmates and they line them up against the, they go through a metal detector, they line them up against the wall, they do the search, and then they come into the room. And they are usually very happy to see you because you're not wearing a uniform and you're giving them books and pencils. Sometimes you will get people who've been through the program before, but they just want to hear it again. Now, the program is very simple. If you have ever had a job, you know everything that's in this book. You know what a resume is. You know what an application is. You can find a job. A lot of these people have no clue. No clue. They've done construction, or they've done house cleaning, or they've been in, as we say, sales and distribution. A lot of them have been in sales and distribution. So you have a conversation with them, and that's all it is. It's a conversation, a guided conversation using this book. Now, one of the reasons they're eager to come to this is there is the possibility of what they call milestones, which is getting some time off of their sentence. We have no control over whether or not they qualify. All we want them to do is attend the workshop, fill out the workbook, have it reviewed by Ken or one of us, take a pre-test, an open book pre-test, and then a final exam. It's not easy. It's not easy, but some of them are enticed because they think they can get some time off their sentence. So it's a conversation that you have with people. Now, we also got recruited into a couple of drug recovery places. There's one in San Jacinto called MFI Lewiston. It's a women's drug recovery place, residential. We have our own workbook that we developed, and it's just basic information, a place to write down all your jobs, a place to start drafting a resume, some resources, and we go there twice a month, the first and third Friday. We've also picked up another drug recovery place that is very, very small. It's more like a halfway house for women coming out of prison, and we only go there when they have new people. So there's lots of opportunities out there to do something like this. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't know anything about, oh, I could never do this. Yes, you could. If you've ever had a job, you can sit there and talk to people and encourage them to change their life through employment, become self-sufficient through employment. So that's sort of what we do. Why in the world would I do this? That's a good question. We all have electronic devices, right? TVs, radios, cell phones, and there's signals going through the air at this very moment. But you have to have a receiver in order to get the message, and your receiver has to be turned on. Well, what I've discovered is your heart is the receiver for God's message. You quit listening to your ears and listen to your heart. Because if there's something out there that you hear about and it pulls at you, it could be animals, it could be plants, it could be kids, it could be the elderly, it could be anything. But if you shut your ears off and listen to your heart, the message will get through. Another thing that intrigued me was most of the groups out there, the disadvantaged, have people speaking up for them. The homeless, the foster kids, the animals, the plants, the environment. Ex-felons have no one advocating for them. They are not they are not protected by equal housing opportunity. There are no protections against discrimination. Most of the people in fact, all the people that I meet in the jail, they don't put me with real hardened criminals unless I'm getting paid. There are people who've made a mistake. That's all it is. They've made a mistake. They've had poor judgment. A lot of it's due to drugs and alcohol. They don't need to be punished twice, which is the tendency of society to do that. You put them in jail, they serve their sentence, then they get out, then they get punished again because no one will associate with them or give them a job or give them a chance. Thank goodness we have a law now in California that says it was as of January 1st of 2018, they can no longer ask on an application about felony convictions. Now, does that mean they just automatically hire felons? No, you get a background check when they're serious about hiring you, but at least it gives them a chance. So, why I do it? Well, there are some biblical references. In Matthew chapter 25, it says, I was in prison and you visited me. And goes on to say, as you did it to me, one of the least of these, you did it to me. And then Peter chapter 4 talks about each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. So everybody has gifts. Sometimes we just don't recognize them. I happen to have the gift of talking, which was discovered in second grade on my report card. It says talks too much. So, you know, I joined Toastmasters to basically learn how to speak up and then when to shut up. But this is what I do. Now the paid part happened when I was volunteering and I met some of the teachers. They have a school out there called Desert Edge High School, and it is a high school. They do GED preparation and high school diplomas, depending on where they are. And one day I was talking to one of the teachers and they were complaining because they couldn't take a vacation, they didn't have any substitutes. And I said, well, one of my 55 jobs was substitute teacher, and I already had my clearance. And so I applied, and at the age of 65, I got hired to be a teacher. And that's when I deal with the people from the RSEC program. And I tease my lady friends that I get locked in a room with 18 guys. Now, you got to remember, most of them are young enough to be my son or my grandson, but I get to interact with them on a more personal basis and teach them life skills, how to write an essay. I try not to do too much math. It's a little difficult, but and I've met some absolutely wonderfully talented people, both men and women. They're learning Photoshop, they're learning computer. Some of them have never even had access to a computer, so you have all of them. Some of them can barely read, and some of them are quite educated. But you meet, people say, aren't you afraid? No. Sometimes when I go to Riverside, I do deal with a little more serious offenders, but always in a protected environment, and the staff is very nice. So you never know where something is going to lead you, but I urge you to turn on your receiver, turn off your ears, listen to God, and then you can turn why me, Lord, into why not me. Thank you for your attention.